Welcome to the podcast, my bro.
Yeah, thanks, bro.
Who are we? What's our name? What's our story? How do we get into training? Give me a little bit of a background of who Jesse Lazaro is.
Yeah, sweet. So obviously my name's Jesse. 27 years old this year, just turned 27 a couple of weeks ago. And yeah, I got into training far out when I was 12 at home, like before I could even get into a gym, just sort of found the enjoyment of it. And
Dad's
I guess I
weights.
just, yeah, just
Yeah, I
love
was insane.
just love the pumps. So I was doing a lot of calisthenics stuff for the first couple of years. And then when I was 14, still couldn't get into a gym by myself, but my brother was old enough to have a membership. And yeah, we knew the gym owners, so they were pretty much like, yeah, you can come, but only if your older brother's with you. So we'd go after school for like 2, 3 hours every day. And yeah, so from 14 now until 27, that's
So
what, 13
you're in the
years.
gym training since 14.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's
So
mad.
literally nothing happened overnight. And yeah, it's pretty, you're getting a lot of credit now these days for the years and years of hard work, which is pretty cool. So
I think that's the hardest thing for someone who's like, let's say they're like 23 years old and they just started training to conceptualize that. Like even myself, I was doing the same as you. And then dad would take me like on school holidays, he would take me to the gym and we train together. But if like
mm,
you're 23 years old just stepping inside the gym, then there's people like myself, yourself, who have been training for 9, 10 years, like
yeah,
proper training, but still lifting some sort of weights for
yeah,
that long that it just takes time. But
yeah.
that's awesome. Obviously that's why you got the physique that you got now, 'cause you've been training for 13 years
Yeah.
straight. But
It's taken literally 13 years for me to get to this point.
uh,
15 if you include the calisthenics. So
oh,
yeah.
I'm the same, bro. I'm literally like, yeah, I'd be 15 years and I'm still mid tier. Like, so,
Quadzilla, mid tier. Yeah,
yeah,
sure.
whatever. Wait till I win a show. Run me through. Obviously, you're a coach out of World Gym Bathurst. You've joined one RM team since August last year, I think, when World Gym Bathurst opened up. You're also coaching online now, which is cool. Give me a bit of rundown. I know you got some coaching history behind yourself and how long you've been a coach for, and a little bit about that.
So I did my certs back, finished up around COVID. So kind of like started when the first lockdown finished. I think that was 2020. Yeah, started working in the gym and yeah, sort of solidified myself working at a small boutique PT gym where I really cut my teeth there, where I did a year, and that was at I forget the name of it, but real fitness training. Yeah, so in the hills in Sydney. So that was kind of like where I did the bulk of my start of my PT, and that I think really shot me forward rather than similar sort of way that you run the business where you have PTs underneath you. I was working with a group of PTs in the gym, and we all worked together. Had a business model, and that kind of helped me to really grow myself as a PT and have some things there in place to help. Yeah, I guess sort of like just start me out, and here we are today. So 4 years down the track, and yeah, it's been pretty awesome.
Very nice, my man. And you've been coaching, or you're doing some face to face out at Bathurst, but then also been coaching online as well. How's World Gym Bathurst been for yourself, and how's the clientele been out there compared to Sydney when you're out here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of the people I trained in Sydney were business owners, and so a lot more. I don't know, very different. At the same time, I've trained, I guess, kind of like just everyone. So everyone from mums, dads, business owners, kids, teens, like everyone from all sort of ways of life and different cultures. So really, when I moved to Bathurst and started training at a World Gym, it was like still very similar. Like I'm training everyone, kind of like just from all walks of life with different goals.
I feel like that's one thing that people kind of forget, or like coaches coming up kind of forget, is they only see the people that people are training right now. Whereas I would say almost every like high level coach or experienced coach has been there training the people that just want to look, the people that are just coming in training at the gym 3 times a week. I started at F45, like I was an F45 trainer, and then
Mm,
so you could do the math there. Granted, their 45 was that was actually quite good in the way that they were very, specific in terms of how we coach, and they were quite good in that sense. So it wasn't just like slam and bam, but you were still getting people who literally hadn't moved in 30 years, and then three
yeah,
you teach him how to do a perfect RDL because there's no equipment, so you can't just get him on a squat machine or something. So no,
Yep.
you have to learn to cue them in 45 seconds on how to move their hips back. So I
Yep.
think having that knowledge helps massively, and then you can then transfer that over into your higher level clients, which you've got now. Then it's the same language or the same way that you approach things. It's just maybe a slightly different language or a little bit more specific to who you coach now. But yeah, you definitely need that background. So
Yeah. Yeah. For sure.
who's your main, I guess, clientele? Who do you kind of coach now? Who do you specialize with, I should say?
I do a lot of just kind of everyone, but I'm really I think just passionate about. I find a lot of the time when I get those fresh people like never step foot in a gym, like there's something about that I'm just like, I love just like investing in those people and just being able to like literally give them little dribs and drabs obviously at the start, but just there's just so much for them to learn. And I just like I get so excited. I'm like, oh, like there's so much to like teach you. And it's like that exciting start to their journey. As well as obviously high performing clients with people that want to compete in bodybuilding or powerlifting, stuff like that. So yeah.
The coolest thing is when you get those people who you've taken from like just stepping in the gym, or like, maybe they come from a bit of a party background. You're like, hey, like this is a little bit cooler way of life. And then you see them like slowly morph in and morph in. And then all of a sudden they're, 18 weeks out from their first show, which is my client, Anya. I'm sure that she'll be fine with me saying that, but like literally the exact same thing. It was like, cool, just
100%.
come. Here's the good life. Come to the good life.
Yeah.
You can be addicted to stuff. Just come be addicted to some good stuff.
Something that's actually going to make your life a bit better. Yeah.
Well, yeah, it's a positive aspects, but yeah, it's cool to take people all the way through. And then, as you said, you've got obviously your higher level physique clients now, and obviously your bodybuilding clients now, which is cool, man. So, in terms of obviously your clients, what do you think is what do you think the main overarching thing that people struggle with is, or your clientele struggle with?
Yeah, I think just like the understanding around nutrition, I think a lot of people struggle to, I guess, sort of like understand like what are, I guess, just calories in general and like where they come from. And then you go onto the deeper level with macros and it gets a bit more like in their head, it's kind of like just trying to figure it all out. It gets it can get a bit overwhelming, but it's all a learning process really. So
100%. And I agree. Hence why I made the business as a nutrition focus, because I feel like people just struggle with that. Obviously, they struggle with their training, but they're more openly willing to admit that they're struggling with nutrition. And then obviously when you start to help them with training, then they, there's a lot of things that you can help with their training. But I think the nutrition thing it's so simple that it's almost too complex. You know what I mean? So there's so much out there. It's like it can't be that easy. It's like it is like it literally just is like So that's why we've got the workshop and stuff, just to let people know that it literally can be that simple. But when you're trying to get your head around it, it's definitely like a bit of a headache. So I completely understand.
Yeah, I tend to try and keep it as simple as possible, and just start with them just tracking their food, and then that kind of just allows them to see anyway what's in their food, and then from there it just becomes a lot easier and to teaching them about the macros and your proteins, fats, and carbs. So,
and then once you learn that, then you realize that dinners with the family when mum's cooking the usual stuff, and you start to then calculate the calories, and you're like, oh, a bit rough.
Yeah.
When you go out to dinner, like, oh, there's a lot in that chicken Caesar salad has a lot of cheese, a lot of ranch dressing in there. So going on about yourself, one last question. Obviously, your training now, you spoke about your physique. You competed, is that right? When did you compete?
Yeah.
Run down about that. How was that experience? That was your first comp. When was it? 23?
Last year, 2024, April.
Oh, 24.
Yeah. So that was my first comp. I guess I kind of always wanted to compete, but then it was kind of just things lined up really well with just where I was at in my life and like the ability to actually commit to prepping for my first comp, which it took a lot, but it was honestly probably one of the best experiences I've ever gone through, and one of the most challenging as well. It's going down from eating a maintenance of 3,500 calories down to the last couple of days on 1,200 was rough to say the least. But at the same time, I think just being able to see how I could get my physique to that level was just next level. I still look back at the photos and go like that was me. Like that's how conditioned I was, like down to 3% body fat, striations everywhere, just, you know, next to no body fat. It was just like mind blowing to see myself in that position. And you know, along with it all, like getting my first proper spray tan, like I was just kind of like again, like it's just like the whole thing was just like, yeah, insane. And I'm going to do it again for sure. So
I agree. Obviously, I prepped last year as well. So you did season A as well.
yeah, April, yeah,
Yeah, right. We both did the same season.
yeah,
I didn't actually realize that. Yeah, I remember prepping. Obviously, I didn't go that low, but I think my prep was a little bit longer than yourself. Mine was
mm.
closer to 30 weeks from start to end of season. How long was yours?
I'm pretty sure I started like around August or September.
So it was pretty long as well, around
Yeah,
30 weeks. Yeah.
yeah,
That's yeah, that's a lot. And I always tell my athletes that like it's literally the hardest thing you'll ever do. But or one of the hardest things you'll ever do, but when you come out of it, you're not the same person. Like you've leveled up. It's like Pokemon evolving. Like you're never going back to where you were before that. Like yeah, as soon as you, as
100%.
soon as you do a prep, you create that physique. Unless you literally turn into a complete asshole and eat like an asshole for months on end afterwards, you
Hmm.
and you as long as you stay logical and you trust your coach, you're always going to be that level ahead, and then now you're the next level up, and then you're the next level up.
Yeah, exactly. And that was like one of the things I was actually really grateful for was reverse dieting. I slowly started adding in things rather than I've seen. I mean, straight after my comp, to be honest, like I went and smashed a whole large Italian sausage pizza and a couple of beers, but that was just to celebrate. And it was just after that, I felt like absolute trash, and like I was like, oh, okay, like that's not good. So after that, I just was still on my meal prep and
Yeah,
still eating incrementally back up towards maintenance and reversing back out, which I was honestly like it was, if anything, the best thing. And it kind of just helped keep me regimented because I was still studying during that period. And I
yeah, yeah,
still had finals exams and like everything to go along with that. So coming out and having that regiment, like, okay, meal prep, study, go to class, do my, what I need to do,
yeah.
train, everything just sort of like continued the way it was already happening. So I didn't feel like I was just dumping everything and going, okay, back to normal life. It was like, well, not normal life, but like, you know what I mean? So
Yeah, yeah. That's
things just,
laughed about the beers because after my first comp, which was like ages ago, it was like 4 years ago or something, 2019 or whatever. So I literally just did stepped off stage, and then I remember I just went by, had some food, and I went back to our house. I invited a couple of mates around, and we just sank beers all night, which is
oh,
the worst thing you can do. I'm not advocating for it, whatever. I wasn't even in the coaching,
no.
or in the fitness world at this time.
Yeah.
But I really waking up the next day and I was just peeled, shredded, and
Oh,
like, this is great, but I feel terrible. I'm peeled to the bone,
yeah.
veins everywhere because you dry as fuck, and then obviously then you get watery. But I think that what you said about obviously having the regiment and the structure, the times that people go wrong post prep is when they just literally they just get dumped, whether they get dumped on their own by their coach and they don't get any external help, or there's no structure afterwards. There should always be this is the plan. You should know at least 4 weeks before you step on stage that this is the plan afterwards. This is how long it's
Mm,
going to take. You're going to feel these symptoms for X amount of time.
yeah.
I remember after I competed, I literally still had like I would probably say pretty high, stronger hunger feelings up until about November, maybe
Wow.
November. Like I was still like could not just. I remember eating my whole food was like 3,800, and I felt like I could have a whole Macca's family box after it.
All right.
It wasn't until it really wasn't until at least November that I stopped having those feelings. And that was I competed season A as well, so May. Not that that's a bad thing. It just I wish I had have known like had you know if you're briefed about it, you can then understand why you're having those feelings, right? So
Mm,
I think, as you said, just having a big a structure for your post prep and what the reverse looks like, and then how long it's going to take, and how long symptoms may stick around for, can help massively. So
yeah, totally. No, I didn't even know that you could actually have those hunger pains that long after. I think my body just adapted really well, and I just kind of cruise on through, luckily.
I,
So
I think some people can operate low for long. Like you can stay lean and you can pretty much, like you're relatively lean now. What are you weighing, like 94 kilos or whatever?
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah,
93, 94. And this is probably the heaviest you've been. Like,
yeah. At the leanest that I've been, honestly, I think like yeah, for the last like since my comp, I've noticed that I've stayed. I'm starting to lose a bit of that definition now. I think I'm starting to add a bit of fluff, which is fine. But
so you
um,
still felt good probably like 4 months ago, right? Whereas I didn't really
yeah,
start to feel strong until I stepped on stage at 82. I didn't feel strong until at
I
least
was 83 kilos on stage, bro.
yeah, sorry, my lowest was 82, and I don't know what I was after the carb up or whatever, but
Yeah.
I don't feel strong until at least 93 to 95, you know what I mean? So I need
Mm,
to be slightly higher body fat to feel like I can I can operate better, whereas
yeah,
some people can be a little bit lower and stuff. So I feel like you were feeling good like 4 months ago, you know? So
yeah, yeah,
you're
yeah, for sure.
relatively strong about 4 months ago. I was still like not really strong. I'm not
Mm.
really that strong anymore, but still. First one, what is the optimal training split for building muscle? So what's your, we laugh because you get asked this all the time, but what's the
Yeah.
optimal split? What's your advice on that?
Um, the optimal training split.
Yeah,
Uh,
there is none.
no,
There is
next
none.
question. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really dependent on yourself and where you're, or
Mm,
if you're a physique athlete, where your lagging areas are. So then
yeah,
that's where you're going to want to put a lot of your volume.
yeah,
Uh, and then it also comes down to personal preference as well. Like I know that
yeah.
I like to get a pump, so I like to do things in certain areas. So I like to at least get a decent pump. So if I can try and, at least have a push day or a pull day or something like that, then that's
Mm,
pretty good. But I know other people like to structure things differently and depending on what the goals are. So do you have
yeah.
anything you wanted to add on that?
Yeah. I mean, during my prep, my shoulders were really like lagging behind. So, I literally just started adding in lateral raises, between, uh, my push day, my pull day, and then my arms day. Just 2 sets each day at the end of each session, and pretty much saw massive growth to the point where actually that was like a giveaway, a dead giveaway that somebody said that as to why they thought I was enhanced, and I'm completely natural. I thought it was the best compliment ever I could have gotten, and it was purely just because I targeted them in the right way and made sure I had a bit of extra carbs on those days and stuff like that. So it came down to just nutrition and yeah, specifying volume where I needed it. So
That's funny that you say that. I literally had in my group chat this week. It was like one of my clients got accused of being on the gear because he's made some really crazy changes. I just said that's the best compliment ever. Like I
yeah,
had someone come up to me and be like, "Oh, like what's your advice on this?" I'm like, "Oh, I actually have no idea. I'm natural. Like I'm not in that space." They're like, "What do you mean?" I'm like, no, no, like I'm natural. Like I haven't touched anything ever." And they were just like, they just automatically assumes that because I'm, a physique athlete or whatever, that I was on gear. And I was like, nah, bro, I'm good.
no,
I just
yeah,
train hard and eat properly and actually take care of myself. So,
yeah.
what's the best way to, um, I guess, change your macronutrient split going into a growth phase? So, someone wants to go into a growth phase, they've been stuck on maintenance. How do you approach, I guess, pushing calories up? How would you change the macro allocation, things like that?
That's a great question. I mean, if you're just wanting to go into a building phase, I mean,
Yeah.
just start by increasing incrementally, slowly. Because my firm belief is like, honestly, like if you're just adding on weight to add number to a scale and you're just eating whatever you want, it's kind of like, okay, what are you actually adding to your body? Because if you're not adding, lean muscle mass or anything like that, then you're just adding on body fat, which is not going to help you in the long run. So you might as well just do it a bit slower,
Yeah.
eat a bit better. So, obviously having a balance of your carbs and fats. But really, I think it just goes week by week kind of thing. So just seeing how their body changes to each, change. And if you're increasing the carbs and you're seeing that things are going well, I like to then also give them a bit of extra fats, and that goes well with their protein and just helps with their performance overall as well. So then they can actually implement that with their training and actually, it goes hand in hand that way then as well. And obviously just being in a surplus, for a standard amount of time. And then,
You're gonna have more energy, you're gonna have more calories no matter what. But most of
yeah,
it, what you said, is coming from increasing carbohydrates and maybe then slightly increasing fats.
yeah, yeah,
Protein kind of stays relatively the same. Might go up just from some trace protein from your rice or whatever
yeah,
matter there. But I totally agree. If you're not, it's probably something I've been guilty of in the past. Is thinking that because I've been up to 100 kilos and you think that's cool, but doesn't matter if you got to shred down to 82 kilos, like it
yeah,
shit. So I'd rather
yeah,
be stuck at 97 and then not and then shred down to 86. You know what I mean, or
yeah.
that sort of thing. So I
And that's
think,
such an easier process as well, going just like that, less of a drop than thinking, oh, I've got to cut down. And you just keep going and going. And you're like, man, why am I having to cut so much weight just to end up at the same weight if you had just had that little less body fat on you and you just
yeah,
added more muscle in the long run? So,
yeah, I think that's the hardest thing for being in a growth phase. And again, something I had to deal with is if you're eating in a slight surplus and then you go and have 1 to 2 off-plan meals a week, and you've then pushed over, then you're gonna push yourself over and spill over very quickly. Like you have to be
yeah,
quite regimented, and just because there's stuff in the cupboards and stuff like that, if you don't account for it, you kind of can't have it. Like it's otherwise you're going to spill yourself over. So by like being there, give yourself the extra calories, but
mm,
don't think that you can just go and eat anything and everything, because that's when things start to spill over. So
yeah. It all comes out. I like to think of it like on the weekly average. So if on, over 6 days, 5 days, you're eating, you know, hitting your macros and everything. And on the Saturday, you go out and you have a bit of extra. And then Sunday follows over. It's just you've kind of hit your average already. And then you've spilled over up the top on the Saturday, Sunday. And that just, it's just adding more fat mass to your body, which you don't want. So,
in terms of, I guess, training, had a lot of questions, a few questions in here regarding training intensity, rep and reserve. What do you think is the easiest way for someone to gauge if they're training intensely? What's the easiest way that someone in the gym that doesn't have a face-to-face coach or someone watching them train, what's the easiest way that they can know that they're training relative close to failure or to failure?
um, I mean, it's kind of difficult if you don't know what your failure point is, right? So there's been times where I've been like, man, I only had 1 rep left. And the next week gone back and smash that same number. Well, maybe not the same, like smash that same number by like 3, 4 extra reps. I'm like, oh, maybe that wasn't actually 1 rep in reserve. And, just being on the same amount of calories, it's like, okay, what is the failure point? And then I think a good way to get in my personal, the way I've been doing it for this powerlifting block per se is more so RPE, so rate of perceived exertion. So how hard did that actually feel? And then I like to feel my sets and go, how bad did it look towards the end? Like, was it not bad, but like, how did my set look towards the end? Was my form declining? Were the reps really slow? Because I've done my bench press and I'm like, man, that felt so tough. But then I look back at the footage and I go, oh, that actually moved really, really smooth. So I know then my next increment is going to be valid reason as to why I'm going up or staying there and hitting the same set and reps at that same weight. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
So,
completely agree. I'm glad you brought up RP, because there's rate of perceived exertion, then we've got rep and reserve, and coaches can use two different things, and sometimes they're both really helpful. But the thing with RPE, especially with resistance training, is that you can feel like that was extremely hard, but you're still 4 reps away from failure. Like you get, particularly, I'll use the example, you get a female who's on their menstrual cycle. Everything feels hard. Walking in the gym feels fucking hard. Do you know what I
yeah.
mean? Like, so the RPE is already 48 out of 10.
Mm,
But then you get them on and you get them training. They feel like shit anyway. They might as well have a good session. They end up hitting, they actually end up progressing in almost all their lifts.
yeah. Yeah.
Because
I've had a
like,
few of them.
let's go. So, yeah, I think what you said regarding filming yourself in terms of training is that, and the key thing that I had conversation, or when I did a check-in with a client yesterday, was mainly like, if your reps aren't slowing down, you've got more room in the tank. And even then, when they start slowing down, they're probably still 4 away from failure. So
Mm,
obviously, you want to make sure form's fine. You want to make sure we're not putting ourselves in any compromised positions. But if you're already set to go, just send it. And sometimes, you like what you said, you need to find failure. So sometimes you just need to fail and then be like, okay, that's where it is.
Yeah. And I actually really enjoy surprising some of my clients, and not in a shocking way, but just going like, just trust me and see what this shows. And then we do like a progression. Maybe it's reps, maybe it's weight, or maybe it's like tempo, or the way that their form is. But a lot of the time, it's like, yeah, like that was they go, oh, like how did I do that? Like I had a client just today who was doing a dumbbell shoulder press, and she was so nervous about the 12 and a halves last week. We hit six on our last set, and I was like, okay. So we did our first set on tens. We got 10 reps, and then the second set, I was like, we're going 12 and a half. Just trust me. And she did. She hit eight, and then we did a third set, and she hit eight again. And she hadn't won the tank, but at the same time as okay, we hit eight, and I was like, okay, it was clean. I'm happy to call it there, rather than pushing to the point where a dumbbell isn't so stable as and it's a bit more like you got two things going on at once, and her left would tend to sort of like just cut out sometimes, and she feels like it's weak. So we made sure her shoulder blades were set, and that was like a key point as to why she got the extra reps for two sets, not just 6 and 6 on her second and third set.
Yeah, I think you definitely have to you have to pick and choose your battles. Like something like a shoulder press or whatever, you start to squirm and whatever, or you get a
Yeah.
little. That's obviously not what we want. But
No.
if it's just you and the pendulum, or you and the hack squat, and your form's relatively good, the bum's not lifting off, and
Hmm.
I've had clients before where it's like I've said the same thing. It's like you got five more. Like I can see it, and after every rep they're dying. They feel, but every rep's the same speed. And I'm like, you haven't failed yet. You haven't failed yet. And then we
No.
get five reps past where they were going to stop, and then I start to see the slow down. I was like, okay, cool.
Yeah.
You haven't
Yeah.
found
Yeah.
yet. I'm not going to drill you that hard. So,
No. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's just obviously doing it in a safe way rather than
of
going,
course.
oh, we're just going to push till failure. And then their form's breaking down. They're still wanting to go. And you're like, nah, call it like,
It's failure of the muscle, not just failure of your whole central nervous system body
yeah,
dying.
yeah,
Which is
yeah.
something that is hard to comprehend as well. Nutrition question. In terms of pre-workout nutrition, I feel like sometimes when I come to the gym, I feel really, really good and have heaps of energy. And then other times I feel bloated, I feel yuck, and I feel like I don't even want to train. Why is this happening? What are some of the things that you guys would suggest in order to stop that from happening?
I mean, what it depends on what you're eating. I like to eat something lighter, or if I'm eating something heavier, making sure it's a good hour and a half, 2 hours before, because I've eaten meals like right before going to the gym. That's like say it's like chicken, potato, veg, and I eat that right before the gym. I'm sitting around just going in between sets, like burping, just going like, oh man, battling. But I love a good go-to, like some Wheat Bix with honey and some protein water per se.
Yeah.
For my pre-workout. Same thing with like oats, or even just a banana. Honestly, something light and easy, and then sort of like figuring out everyone's different. I've got clients that come in on an empty stomach and they feel great every time. I'm like, I can't train on an empty gut, personally. So, but yeah, maybe just yeah.
I'm the exact same. I feel like sometimes, like 100%, you want something to digest easy, but then sometimes finding, especially when your food changes, like you go from maintenance into a growth and you're eating a little bit more, it can take a few days for you to then reassess and be like, right, I actually need to eat this meal now. So that when by the time I get to the gym, it's digested. Otherwise, if you miss that window, it's like, right, you're just having some rice cakes and some jam or something. You're almost better off not eating that meal and make yourself feel slightly bloated and distended, and not having as much food in your stomach than the latter, I would say. The last thing I find, I get tired and I get, don't want to be there. You're exhausted, and then an hour later when you leave the gym, you kind of feel, oh, there's all my energy. Like the food's
Yeah,
great. Let's go
yeah.
back. Yeah,
Could also be like, I find that if you're a pre-workout kind of person, like some pre-workouts don't sit well with me, and it's just like, I guess like trial and error, like making sure you're choosing one that I guess just doesn't sit badly in your stomach. I think that's also a big one.
I've moved completely to pretty much non-stims, just simply so that I train in the afternoons now, I don't get the jitters. But that seems to sit relatively
Yeah.
comfier. You don't not necessarily get that
You don't
direct.
need
You don't get the diuretic sensation that you would get from caffeine. Obviously, caffeine's good when you need it, but if you don't need it, then I wouldn't suggest having it. So
Yeah, I think, I mean, if you feel like you need that to train, it's one thing, but do you actually need it? I find that I can train without pre-workout regardless. It's just a matter of, I think sometimes I like, if I know I've got a good pump towards the end of the session ahead, I'm like, I want that, So
yeah,
I'm kind of like, a pump on push day is always good, or pull day. So, you
yeah.
know,
So to answer that question, I'd say make sure we have quick digesting carbs, so sugars, maybe a little bit of protein in there. I'd steer away from fats too much, like your peanut butters,
mm,
chocolates and or nuts and avocado and things of that nature, and just give yourself enough time for it to digest as well.
plan ahead, really. Just figure out when you're training that day and make sure you've got a good meal an hour or two before, and then a little snack just before. That's what I like to do, at least. So
Unless you have a quote unquote job or a like a face to face PT where you're kind of all over the shop and you're training at different times every day.
uh,
Most people should have enough structure in their life that they should be able to at least plan that out, especially if you have a standard 7 till 3 or a 9 to 5 or something. You should be able to
yeah,
get pretty regimented with your food and lock that in. Well, that was obviously awesome for you to jump on and appreciate you jumping on and giving some of your knowledge. It's obviously, I actually learned some shit. I didn't actually know you competed last year. I thought it was 23, so that was kind of
yeah. No, it was just last year. Yeah,
cool. Um, but for people to find you, obviously on the gram and stuff, do you want to give them, let people know where they can find you, if you're taking on clients in more avenues, whether it's face to face or online, and let the people know how they can get in touch with Mr. Lazaro.
yeah, for sure. So Instagram tag is just 1RM coach underscore Jesse. And I am obviously training out of World Gym Bathurst. So if you're not in Bathurst, then I am taking online clients. With uni coming up, especially in the next month or so, we'll definitely be taking on more online clients just to help with that load. So yeah, definitely excited for that. And yeah, shoot me a DM, we'll set it up.
Awesome, man. If you guys want to see a wild rig with a dirty mo, go follow Jesse. Go follow Jesse. He's a little bit better looking than myself, so you'll get some enjoyment out of that, and he lifts some heavy shit and it's good content. So check that out.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
thanks for jumping on, man. It was cool. Obviously, we'll do more of these, and hopefully next time I'll be face to face.
100%. So keen. Appreciate it.